It's time to repeat.
Welcome everybody, those of you that are joining, we're very pleased to have you here. As you can see on the slide, we have Helen and Sally joining us, and it's 1 o'clock in the UK where we are. So thank you for joining. If you're joining in your own time at 8 o'clock, if you're in China, and people who are joining from other parts of the world, do tell us in chat where you're joining from. It's always lovely to know which countries are being represented. I'm in West Sussex, which is on the south coast of England. And Helen and Sally are in a place called Slough, which is just to the west of London. How many miles from London are you, Helen?
Not far, maybe 15 miles,
right.
Pretty close to London.
So see who we've got joining us here. So we're live streaming this to China, and we have some people joining us live on Zoom. So as you can see, we're joined from Helen and Sally from Godolphin Junior Academy. And I'm going to ask Helen and Sally to introduce themselves. And I can see, actually, we've got the names around the wrong way, haven't we?
Yeah, that's okay.
But that's all right. It's just to make sure we're awake. So actually, Helen has the dark hair and Sally has the blonde hair. And Helen's the head teacher, the principal. So I'm going to ask Helen to start with a little bit of an intro, please.
Yes, lovely to be here. My name is Helen Abel. I'm the principal of a school called Godolphin Junior Academy, and very happy to be talking about reading this morning.
I'm Sally Clayton, and I'm the reading lead here at Godolphin Junior Academy, and I've been here for 4 years now.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm going to stop sharing now just for a moment, because actually, have I got, sorry. So have I been sharing my screen or not? No. So that was what I was hoping to be sharing with the pictures there. We've done Helen and Sally. Just to give you a bit of an insight, I don't normally work in the office. I normally work from home, and I'm in someone's office at the moment. And their screens are so complicated. They've got all these different screens, and I'm working my way around them. So sorry to say that I was sharing it and then I wasn't sharing it. But no matter, it doesn't matter at all. It's more important that we can see your faces and that we can talk about Godolphin schools. So Sally, would you like to, sorry, Helen, would you like to just give us a little bit of a background to the school, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Godolphin is a junior school. We've got 4 year groups, so from ages 7 to 11, and we're a very large junior school compared to some of the other schools across England and the UK. We have 120 children in every year group, so we're considered, as compared to the average school in the UK, we would be a large junior school. We also have in our school 77% of the children here speak English as an additional language. And some of the more commonly spoken languages in our school is Urdu, which is the most common language, Punjabi, but we also have Somali, Polish, Romanian, Italian, a full range of languages spoken here. One of the real strengths of our school is how diverse it is and how much we celebrate all the different cultures and backgrounds of our pupils. We are a buzzy school. It's alive with sort of celebration and culture and diversity. And one of the other interesting facts about our school, or points of interest, is we're also in a socio-economically disadvantaged area. So a third, in fact, over a third of our pupils come from households who we would say in the UK disadvantaged money-wise. And they will have things like free school meals and some funding from our government to help support them in their progress and their attainment and their learning. So that's one of the other reasons, when we're talking about reading and access to reading, these are important factors of our school and how our school works. And probably the last thing to mention about Godolphin is we are one school of 8 in a multi-academy trust, so a federation of 8 schools working together. And our schools are all large schools, and they're all based in the London area, and all of them use Accelerated Reader. Godolphin were first, and the rest very quickly followed, but it means that all 8 of us, we can all share ideas, share tips, and get the best out of it. So that's a little bit about Godolphin.
Thank you, Helen. So Sally, is there anything you'd like to add into that? I mean, Helen's given a very good overview, but I'm sure from your perspective, anything you'd like to add in from a Godolphin point of view?
I think bearing in mind from my role is just thinking about the fact that we have to cover such a wide range when we're thinking about reading, and making sure that reading is accessible to every single child that walks through our door. So that's what we really sort of try and put into place right from the early stages, to make sure that everybody is included with how we use our reading across the school.
And in terms of Accelerated Reader and STAR, Helen, it's not been an overnight decision.
No.
I mean, you haven't had it 5 minutes, is what I mean.
No, well, Sally and I actually, before we came to this school, Godolphin, we worked together at a previous school. And so between us, we've been using Accelerated Reader for about 12 years now, maybe even more. So we have both used it as class teachers, being in a classroom, teaching children, using it as a class teacher perspective. And we loved it, and we could see all the benefits of it. And we knew exactly what our children could and couldn't do, and what they needed and how to engage them. And then fast forward a few years, I became head teacher at Godolphin. And when I was joining to be head teacher, and I was very lucky because Sally was also going to come along as one of our class teachers, I knew Godolphin had to have Accelerated Reader. They had to have it. I'd seen the benefits myself as a class teacher and as a senior leader. And when I came to Godolphin, they didn't have any provision for reading, really. It was a pick up a book and read a book. That was the way it worked here, but there was no leveling or measuring or knowing how to progress. It was very random. So we came in and we implemented Accelerated Reader. We've now had it going at Godolphin for 4 years, and we've learned so much that we've picked up lots of different strategies and ways to implement it. We're fortunate having Sally, because Sally works here 3 days a week purely as a reading lead now. She is our reading champion, and you know the ins and outs of Accelerated Reader, don't you? But yeah, you know, it's something. Like I said, we don't work for Renaissance or Accelerated Reader, but we say quite openly we can't live without it. We can't look back now. What it does for us and our children and our parents is invaluable to us.
Sally, is there anything you'd like to add to that? Just, I know you're in agreement with Helena. I'm going to say a little bit of something about that in a moment, but you're obviously keen as well.
Well, it is, just as Helen said, it is very much about making it work for your particular school. You have to put in a process to make sure that you are utilising and using it to the best of its ability, because that's where you will then watch the children just progress and develop such a love for reading, which at the end of the day, that's what you want to do. You want to create that love and passion for reading.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to give it a bit of a context, actually, because for those of you that are joining, I spoke to Helen and Sally a couple of weeks ago now, and we actually created a podcast, which we will make available to you if you would like to listen to it. And it's very much based upon what we're going to be talking about in a moment. But what came across for me was this incredible passion and engagement around a product, which seemed to me much more than a product, but almost a way of engaging reading. You know, everything hinged around the results that the children were getting on their STAR test, and then how it was implemented. And the enthusiasm and the engagement that I had from these two ladies was just wonderful. And so I spoke to my colleagues who lead on the China team, and I said, I think it would be amazing for them to share this with you. So this is why we're here today, is for you to hear some of the strategies and some of the ways in which the school wants to encourage children and families to keep reading over the summer holiday. Because of course, reading is core to everything that we do in a school, no matter what age. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're teaching science or even maths. If you can't read, you can't read. And so to have a couple of people who can give us such insight into how they use it and what they do. So that's enough from me. Going back to you both. The school's approach to making sure that children are developing their reading ability and progressing and reaching the levels you want them to. How would you describe what you do there?
So the way we approach reading is that all children are treated exactly the same. So at the beginning of every year, we will take a star reader test, which will then generate reading ages and ZBD levels for children. What we then do is in every classroom has a set of different sets of boxes, all labelled with the ZPD bands. And the idea is that no child will think that I can't read that book, or so-and-so, they have access to all of the books in the boxes, but they have their ZPD ranges to read from. And so what we do, once they've taken the star reader test, that allows us to monitor every single child. So if they come up as a red urgent intervention child, we will pick that child up, and that child will be heard to read by an adult 3 times a week. If they are an intervention child produced on the report, they're heard once a week by an adult in the school. And that adult could be anybody. It could be somebody who works in the office, a teacher, a teaching assistant, a volunteer reader that we have come in. I will pluck adults from every nook and cranny. The on-watch children, they are all monitored by the classroom teacher. And then the benchmark, at and above benchmark, they're more free readers, but they're still picked up on throughout the week in the classroom. We use Renaissance in a way that we create a weekly REM report as well. So that every week I will look at every single child across the school and check. We look at how many quizzes they've passed, how many quizzes they've taken. Any child who doesn't pass a quiz with 80%, we'll put something into place to help them, whether that's just a general chat with an adult, just to make sure they've got the right reading book. Have they got a reading book? Any child who hasn't taken a quiz for 2 weeks, they're picked up as well. Just to make sure it's never a punishment. Reading is never, ever seen as a punishment in school. It's always, how can we help you? What's missing? Have you got enough book choices in the book box? I think that's something that's really important to us here. It's not about we give a child a book to read and they're told to read it. We wouldn't like to do that as adults unless it was highly recommended by a friend. So it's about creating children have choices. They can go and pick books that they want to read, and finding things for them. If they say there's nothing in the book box that I wanted to read, they'll come down and see me and we'll find them a book. Nothing is a chore with reading. At every step of the way, things are put into place to help children to really want to develop and become readers.
Wow, that's amazing. It's such a lovely, enthusiastic response to getting those children turning the pages. I love the idea of using adults in the school. So, you know, whether it's the receptionist or whether it's a dinner lady, because everybody would like to be part of that journey. So to use them in that way is just wonderful. I love it.
Well, and children love reading to adults. Even your high flyers, they love reading to adults, and they love having that opportunity. Quite often we think, oh, that child can read, they don't need to read aloud to an adult. But actually, I actually set a challenge to each class teacher at the beginning of the year in September. And I said to them, I challenge you to make sure you hear every single child read every term. Don't forget about the ones that you think can be independent and are independent readers, because actually it doesn't matter how old a child is. If you say to them, would you like to come and read your book to me for 5 minutes, they'll jump at that opportunity.
Yes, because they are, I mean, at heart, they're show-offs, aren't they, really? Even if it's just a one-to-one, they want to be the centre of attention. So capitalise on that. I mean, that's just lovely. Amazing. I just loved hearing all about that. In fact, I did talk to somebody, she's also in a similar area to you, somebody called Kelly Buxton, and she talks about reading with prosody and, that ability to engage with text and read with feeling and know about the punctuation and understand what it is that they're reading, rather than just talking through the words on the page. Yes. It should be so much more than that.
And of course, reading aloud, that's what happens when you read aloud. You can hear the words, they come alive off the page. So that's why reading aloud, all children should read aloud.
So when I spoke to you before, I was blown away by the ideas and the creative innovation that you've adopted in order to keep children reading over the summer holidays. I know that you're breaking up for the summer holidays today. So a lot of what you're about to talk about is in place. I wonder if you'd like to share some of those.
Yeah, now we are breaking up for the summer holidays today. So one of our big items in assembly was, let's promote as much as we can for our final time before we say goodbye, all the opportunities children have to read over the summer. Last time we spoke, we said it's a long time. For us, this is a 6-week holiday. It's an incredibly long time. We do so much for reading. We don't want to drop the plate now. So we have really massively promoted that Myon is available for children. So they can read books online to their heart's content without there being a cost or a charge for that, which gives access to all of our children. We know it does because following the pandemic, where we've had to really think about remote learning, we know our children have devices, even if it's a shared device, even if it's a smartphone, and they can access it. So we've really, really plugged books are there for you. And then, do you want to talk about the quizzing as well that we've enabled for home?
Yes, so we would never usually do this. We would never usually let the children quiz from home because you don't know what help they're getting from home. So actually, we don't allow children during term time to quiz from home, but over the summer holiday now, so that because we're trying to create a process where reading is a natural habit. And if we let the children think that to stop quizzing for 6 weeks is the norm, then we're not creating that's not the right environment that we want to create. So over the summer holiday, we're opening up the quizzing from home. So I have changed the rights on the Renaissance website for children so that they can now quiz from home. So that we will send every child home with access to Myon. We've also created a list of all of the books on Myon that have quizzes attached to them. So that will all get attached to the Google Classroom site as well, so that children can see. And then children are then allowed to quiz from home over the summer holiday. And very much because children, they love praise and they love prizes and rewards. So it will now be about, over those 6 weeks, while they're doing that hard work, while they're doing the reading and taking the time to log on to Ren to quiz, we will acknowledge that in Google Classroom. So I will keep an eye on it over the 6 weeks and really encourage children, congratulate those of them that have taken a quiz, and become quite interactive on Google Classroom with them, to ask them to respond and say, what book have you read so far that you love? And things like set them reading challenges. So I've got things in the pipeline for, can you read a book with a person's name in the title? Can you read a book that's got a colour or a namesake in the title? Something like that, just to give them ideas, and then they can start to put their comments on to spur on other children as well.
I think as well, because they love to quiz, we've just had one of our big celebration assemblies where we celebrated progress in reading and millionaire readers, and Sally said to the children, it carries on, you know, all these rewards we've got ready for when you come in September, read Myon, do your quizzes. We're seeing all of that progress. Some of the celebrations we have, when we celebrate Millionaire Readers, it's like a rock concert here. The music's blaring, the children are doing drum rolls, and they just explode of excitement. And we think, wow, this is happening for reading. And one of the other really crucial ones is Sally rewards them when they filled their sunflower, which they'll get on the screen when they do a quiz, when they've met their individual target. It's not about being the best reader. It's not about reading the most books. It's about their individual target. So we can say, children over summer, keep reading, keep quizzing. We're watching, we're going to see. And when you come in, you'll get your rewards and incentive. And our reward that we have if you fill your sunflower is you go into a raffle and you win a cozy reading hamper full of slipper socks, a hot chocolate, a book, and they can sort of wrap up at home with a cozy book to read. So all those incentives don't stop. The children know they keep reading over summer. They've got these nice prizes waiting for them to reward them.
Oh, that's amazing. And how many millionaires did you have? What were the results this morning?
Today, for the very first time, we had 23 reading millionaires.
Wow.
And the child who won had her reading millionaire score was she'd read over 6.6 million words. So that's amazing to have 23 reading millionaires. And for the very first time, we actually had a child from year 4 who has become a reading millionaire. Usually it's around the year 5, year 6 mark. But today, for the very first time, we had a child in year 4 who's become a reading millionaire with 1.6 million words. So that's pretty amazing.
And the millionaire aspect is really useful, I think, for those children who are 9, 10, 11, and they may be starting to wane a little bit. It's like that additional value that comes to the table as you become a more mature reader. So that sounds amazing, fantastic. I've heard all sorts of lovely ideas for rewards for millionaire clubs. I mean, I've heard things like pizza parties with the head. There you go, Helen. That's something you've got to look forward to, having a pizza party. And the other one I heard was people having an extra 5 minutes play at the end of a break time. And actually, they don't at all. It's just that they don't have to line up when the whistle goes. They are allowed to have a second whistle. And it's a public thing. So other children are seeing that they're allowed to run around for another 3 minutes or whatever it is. Or jumping the lunch queue. That was a really nice one I heard as well, where children could go in front because they've got a special ticket. And it's so easy actually to set up that sort of thing. But it has the desired effect, doesn't it?
Definitely.
So the summer slide is obviously, as you say, you've set up your term for like an extra term so that your system knows that these are quizzes that are happening without school supervision. So you're able to identify those children and what they're reading during that time. And the system allows you to do that. So what other thing? I know you've done a whole load of other things to encourage that engagement, because sometimes parents struggle to find time and even to really know and understand what they can be doing to help their children read. Would you like to share some of those ideas, please?
Yeah, it's we want to be able to give as much support to parents as we can, and it's quite right. I agree with what you say. Sometimes parents might feel that they don't quite know, they're not teachers, so how can I help at home? Or it might be that language is a barrier sometimes, or access to books is a barrier sometimes. So we also send out some top tips for our parents. So we'll say to our parents, there's loads of things that they could do that are easy to do, that won't take up your time, won't interfere with your day, and is manageable. So one of the things we like to say to parents is build in for the day 10 minutes of let's just stop everyone in the house and read, including the grown-ups, so that the adults do that too, because children like to see their parents, enjoying reading as well, that it's something important to them. And then we say it's the summer holidays, it's long, you're probably looking for things to do. It can be a daily, spontaneous, in the moment, right, everybody, it's our 10-minute reading time, grab your book, and everyone literally stops and reads. And then we also say to parents, you don't have to be, an expert in reading at all, but your child can read and you can ask them. And we say the same questions work for any book. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? What do you think will happen next? Does it remind you of anything else you've read? And by asking those questions for any book, which we would call our book talk questions, the child's then going to be able to think and speak and talk about their reading and make those comparisons. And it's all that discussion is all helping reading and understanding. And that's easy for parents to have a part in. That's something anyone can do at any time. You can do it driving the car, you can do it making the dinner, you can do it whenever. And we send out a newsletter. We really promote to parents, this is how Myon works. This is how Accelerated Reader works, so that parents are in the know, they know what to do. And then we also say, take advantage of even the most simple things. If your child is watching the television, they're watching a program, put the subtitles on, because they will naturally read it. It all helps, it all contributes, you know, and these are little top tips for your busy parent that they can easily do. Anything else?
The local libraries, for us, we've had the local library have come in. Our local library, well, all libraries will have a Gadgeteers is the theme this year, where they promote children to go into the library so that they are aware that they can have access to books over the summer holiday. And so again, it's a summer reading challenge where they are encouraged to read 6 books, and then they get prizes and certificates from the library. So I invited the local library in to speak to all of the children and to really sort of gather up some momentum and excitement about reading. And then it's just something that I've put again on the newsletter, just to remind parents again, because it's a free resource, thinking for in our area that children and adults, the library puts on lots of activities that are all free. So it's just somewhere else to be able to take the children, for them to be able to have access to a wealth of books, so that they can borrow them and read again. So that's something else that I would strongly recommend as well, yes.
One of the other things you mentioned when I spoke to you last time was that you, in your Google Classroom environment, you have a calendar. And you put suggested activities, was it?
Yeah. Now, Google Classroom, or whatever platform anyone's using for their remote learning, because I know there's different options out there. But what we do for Google Classroom is, we know that our teachers are on holiday. It's their holiday too. They're out the country, they're with family. We don't expect our teachers to be working at home. So what we can do is we plan reading activities, which could be anything from look at this or listen to this audio book and we'll put a link in, or we'll put a YouTube link in to an author reading a book, or it could be some sort of reading activity or a reading question. And what we do is, before we break up, so it's all ready to go now, we've scheduled it in Google Classroom, so it will automatically release once a week, so that children know, they log onto their Google Classroom and every week they're going to get a reading surprise or a reading activity. It's no work to the teachers. They've already done it, they've scheduled it. But again, it's not everything in one go. It's every week being released, set up by Google Classroom. So children are again more likely to log on and see what's waiting in store for them. We've made sure they've got some really nice things waiting in store for them to keep that engagement going. At the same time, we're plugging they'll log on. I've got my reading surprise. Great, I'm going to listen to this story. And there'll also be several messages from us. Don't forget Myon, well done, you're doing well, all ready there, all set up, all sort of keeping them motivated.
Amazing. Are you seeing my slides now? Are you seeing the PowerPoint slides?
First slide. Yeah.
The first slide, not the second one. The encouraging children to read over holidays, are you seeing that one?
We can see preventing the summer slide, the first slide.
Why is it doing that then? It's something to do with the way I'm sharing my screen. Sally, I don't know why it's happening. Sorry, a little technical hitch. Would you be able to share your screen with the slide? I'm sorry about that. I don't know why it's not sharing properly.
Yeah, I can do that, Margaret.
But I can't unshare my slide. Sorry, just a second. So there's a little technical hitch going on here. I'm sorry, people, to do this to you. I have no idea why it's not letting me share or anything. I seem to have lost control of my, am I sharing now? Have I stopped? Great, fantastic, thank you. So here are the pictures that Sally and Helen were talking about. So, you know, some ideas. But then on the next slide, Sally, would you mind just sharing the, oh, we've got a question here. Thanks for sharing. How do you track students' reading progress during the holidays?
So I will have access to Renaissance from home. So I can log in, and because I'm the admin, I can see all children in every class. So I will then monitor each child to be able to see who is quizzing, who is perhaps not quizzing. And again, it will just be gentle nudges on Google Classroom just to say, oh, well done, so-and-so, I can see that you've read, and what did you think of the book? And then I'll say, oh, it would be wonderful if, and then list any children that haven't read and taken a quiz. It would be wonderful to see what you're reading and how well you do with your quiz and what you thought of your book. So just lots of gentle encouragement, but little reminders so that they're aware, the children are aware that we know that what they're doing and what they're up to and what they're reading.
Amazing, amazing. Sally, would you mind moving on to the next slide? Because I think that's got the newsletter, which in an old-fashioned way, but actually it works because it's there and it's physical. You send this home as a paper version, don't you?
And we post it on we've got an app as well that our parents use. So we can send it home hard copy, but we put a lot of this on, you know, it's a newsletter, but they can look at it on their phones as well. And then if there's any links on there, because we've published it on our app, they can click the link straight from their phone.
Amazing.
And it will go on to Google Classroom as well for the children to see, so that they've got no excuses really that they can't find the login for any of the details that they need for Myon, for Ren. So everything's in one place for them so that they know exactly where to go. We've just put, there's also sort of a recommendation of a book on there, that a snippet of a chapter of a book that a child might like to read and carry on reading. We've told them what the book is, put a snippet in there, so it's something that they think, oh, if I don't know where to start, that might be where I could start with. And just so that they know again that reading is fun and that reading is for pleasure. So it's bright, it's colourful, just to try and constantly remind them of that they're doing it because it will really benefit them, but also because you get so much pleasure from reading.
Yes, it's not a chore. It's not something you have to do because Mrs. Abel says I have to. It's not about that, is it? No. It's you know, it's much more than that. One of the things I wanted to just mention, you mentioned Myon earlier, and of course the books are narrated on Myon with an English or an American US voice, but nevertheless somebody who speaks the language. So the children are hearing the language spoken or read to them. And that can give confidence too, can't it?
Absolutely. In fact, what we do here as a school is when we teach reading, 90% of the book in a lesson, the adult will read, because we want children to hear a good reading model. And also sometimes that comprehension of what you're reading really helps when you're hearing the book. It's just as important as when they're doing their individual reading. So having that option to have a book read to you, again, it's still reading. It's in a slightly different format, but all that comprehension that's happening and that engagement and that understanding, absolutely crucial, really accessible, really inclusive as well.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm so pleased that I've spoken to you again, because I've learned some more, and you've reminded me of some of the things you talked about before. We will make the podcast available. One of the things I was going to talk about was digital books and paper books. And, you know, obviously with Myon, it's digital and reading on the sofa with a grown up or with a brother or a sister, you know, hopefully is turning pages. I just wondered if you had anything to say about that topic, because I know it's quite a hot potato, isn't it? Yeah,
we've, you know, read a little bit of research about it as well. And for us, if we're being really honest, at the moment, it tends to be a hard copy physical book we get slightly more progress from. However, that doesn't stop the digital books having absolutely a place for it. And especially when we're in the world we live in and we need children to have access to books and we want them to read, it's still got a great place in reading. We're evolving with our knowledge and understanding of the difference between the two. But yeah, we tend to, in the school calendar, in the school year, children go home with a hard copy book, a physical book. But if we didn't have access to digital books and online learning, we would be in a difficult situation, because I've already explained, certainly where we are, we don't have households full of books. We just don't have that. But we do have households full of devices. So this gives that access, opens the door. And children really enjoy it. They love reading an online book. They find it exciting. They're engaged. They like having this hybrid world. They get the best of both worlds. And we only see the positives in that.
No, I really think it's important to give them the best of both worlds as well, because you cannot beat a physical book in your hand.
Okay.
And I don't ever think that we should move away from that, because to have a book and really the pages come alive in your hand is incredible. And it's also to have that time away from a screen. Everything involves a screen now, which is why I think during the holidays, when we are in danger, if lots of children took books home, if we're in danger of losing lots of those resources over a 6-week period, it's great for children to have, everybody's got a device of some sort at home. So they can read a book online at home, but then actually to go to the library and while they're in school, I think to have that physical book, and not only a physical book, it's a book that a child has willingly picked that they themselves want to read. I think it's so important to stop telling children what to read.
Absolutely.
It's so important to make sure that children have a choice. Yeah. And if you really work on your book selections within Renaissance, there are so many books on Ren, thousands and thousands. So you need to make sure that the selection of books available for the children are books that they are really going to want to read. And that's why I think having a physical book in your hand is so important. So we can use the electronic books over the summer holiday, but then come September, we'll be back with books in hands.
Absolutely. There's nothing like having a book that is so well loved and well thumbed. It's almost falling apart, but we don't want to give it away or throw it away because it's got such special memories. Absolutely. Each Peach Pear Plum is a favourite in our household. And my grandchildren now are getting that. They almost know it off by heart. So someone said having a physical book is a very different impact. It is different. It absolutely is different. It should. Digital books will never, ever replace a paper book in the hand, but it has its place. And if for some children that's all they've got, then absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
And then somebody else has just said, what would you say is a better way of reading, intensive reading or extensive reading?
There's the way we approach reading, which is kind of covering every part of that, is we say to children and everyone in our school, you're going to make progress in reading if you read lots at the right level, which is where the ZPD comes in. So keeping that sort of close, careful reading happening at their own level. At the same time, we know there's an importance for reading a wide range of genres, and we don't just use accelerated reader for reading. We also teach whole class reading with a text daily so that they're getting this rich diet, and we'll expose them to lots of different genres. And we also, why are we doing all this? We essentially want children to read for pleasure because they're so hooked on reading that they're reading a lot anyway. But there's, when we teach reading in the classroom, we teach close reading, and we'll take a very short extract and we'll really teach children how to read closely. So we try and cover all bases, reading lots at the right level, reading closely, reading a wide range, having an adult read to you. We expose them, and what that's leading to is a child that actively wants to read for pleasure. So they do end up reading all the time. So we see the place for all of that.
Thank you. That's a really great answer. And I think one of the other questions was how to give instructions to different students. And I think you covered that in the sort of whole class approach, because presumably the more able children are demonstrating and offering insight to the less able. Is that how you would cover that off in terms of a whole class approach?
Well, because this is the beauty of the way we approach reading. Accelerated Reader caters individually anyway, so everyone's reading at their own level. The way we teach whole class reading, we have a text and everybody's included in that. That is for everybody, and everybody's part of the lesson. And what we do is we scaffold up. We don't meet labels, we meet needs. And so what we do to challenge our highest readers right down to supporting our lower readers, it's all about the pitch of the questions, pitch of discussion, and pitch of task. So we can absolutely take one text in a class and make it accessible to everyone, just through adaptive teaching.
Fantastic. So one other bit of insight I'd like to give is, I don't know if you do this at all, but I am a great advocate of the quizzes being used for whole class reading. So if the class teacher's reading a book by Anthony Brown at the end of the day on a Tuesday, then on a Wednesday morning, why not bring the quiz up and use that as a backdrop for discussion and insight and greater depth and all of those sort of inference, nuance, deduction skills. I often think that that's a best kept secret, because those quizzes are available to everybody for teaching and learning. So really good. So you haven't disappointed. You've given us so much to think about. Again, thank you so much. And especially on the last day of term, when you're not sitting with your feet up thinking, well, what shall I do today? There must be a million things. I can hear your phone's been going, and things. This is a busy school anyway, but on the last day of a year, it must be absolutely manic, and with the heat that we're experiencing at the moment as well. So I can't thank you enough. To everybody who's attended, we will follow this session up with an email, and you'll get a recording. If Sally, you kindly show the last slide. Anybody who hasn't joined the community, you're very welcome to do so. You can also have access to MyOn for free over the summer for a limited period. That's definitely worth having a look at. So again, there's a QR code there, but you can also make sure that you're informed about any other upcoming events that are coming up. And we've just got one last question, and then we're going to call a halt, but I don't want to stop anybody's enthusiasm. So do you create extra quizzes for your students to make sure that your students really unsettle content that they're reading? I think what she means by unsettle is probably making sure you get the value out of it all.
In the past, going back a few years now, we used to create our own quizzes on Accelerated Reader. We don't do that anymore because there's just so much there. That's all catered for. We do create our own quizzes using lots of online platforms, from anything from Nearpod to Google Forms, and we will, for certainly class and whole class reading, use that as a comprehension measure and assessment. But as far as quizzes on Accelerated Reader are concerned, we're well catered for. We haven't needed to do anything.
And also, I think with Ren, if the children are reading books that are at the right level, and if you're using the ZPD, we use our ZPD range to climb up. The children have to climb up a ladder. So they can't flit within their ZPD range. We make sure that they progress up the ladder. So they're encouraged to read a couple of books within each level before they move up. If they've read a book and their understanding of that book means that they haven't passed the quiz and they've definitely read the book, then it's very much an encouragement, a discussion with the teacher, and the teacher will suggest that they perhaps read either another book of the same level, or why don't they go back to a lower level, build up their confidence again, and start climbing those steps again. And when you hear it said like that, you might think, oh, a child wouldn't want to do that, but actually they really do. Children want to be scoring 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 for their quizzes. So if they haven't scored what they wanted to, and you don't think they've quite got the understanding, they won't move up onto the next level of their ZPD. They will, in fact, say, no, I want to go down, I want to read a 2.3 before I want to go back down and start again. So it's really about just encouraging and making sure we do the understanding that way, rather than creating multiple quizzes on the same book or things like that. You don't need to. If you've got a really good wealth of books available at their fingertips,
fantastic.
They'll take it on themselves to do that.
Thank you for that. Last thing, just in case you don't do that, for those children who are very able readers, and maybe it's quite hard to give them books that are suitable for their age group because they're such strong readers, I do advocate children creating quizzes. So Key Stage 2 children creating quizzes for Key Stage 1 children, because we have that system which allows for teacher-made quizzes, which I always think is a funny name because no teacher I've ever met is sitting there waiting to write a quiz. But for your very strong readers, I think it's a great activity for them to be creating quizzes for your Year 2 and Year 3 readers. Is a really nice activity. We could obviously go on and on and on. There's so much to talk about here. Thank you so much, Helen. Thank you, Sally. I hope you have a really, really restful summer. You obviously deserve it alongside all the other teachers and support staff and any other staff that work in schools. Thank you to our audience for coming and listening. It's been really, really engaging. And we look forward to seeing you again in September.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.